And CI, I would also include SI in there. So that is as listed as an irregular spelling choice.
Thank you.
So you're going to continue with discoveries for the rest of the final stable syllables. Be very careful as you are discovering the sounds for SI, CI, and TI. The CI can also sometimes say ch, as in provincial and ancient. Okay, watch out for these. And the SI can say z, which is never directly introduced in sounds and syllables, although it's mentioned, as in Persian and Indonesian.
Are these on handouts anywhere, or are we just taking notes on this?
The only handout that I have is the outline.
Okay.
So this is on the outline that I handed out. Yep. And you can also see on page 39 an irregular that Z, which is a ZH, has spelling choices attached to it. Okay, so one of the activities that I like to do when I'm teaching the final stable syllables is to really, and as others have done, this is very similar to some other activities that people have shown, is that you make chains with words for developing vocabulary. Part, partition, partial, partially, prefer, preferred, where you can practice the doubling, preference, and here, notice what happens to the accent, preferred, preference, preferential, preferentially, confide, confidence, confident, confidential, confidentially. And you can have the student practice these by coding them through. It gives great practice with coding, following the procedures. Then you can take one of your chains and use it as vocabulary practice. Where do you prefer to sit in the movie theater? And this can be done, you can do it for copying procedures, you can do it for spelling, you can have the students cut and paste. It really depends upon what you are trying to do with your student. So where do you prefer to sit in the movie theater? My preference is in the middle row, in the back third of the theater. When we were young, my younger sister always preferred the first row in front. She sometimes got preferential treatment because she was small and couldn't see if someone sat in front of her. I was never sure if it was fair. She was treated preferentially. So you can take that one word and you can expand it and use it to develop vocabulary. You can also take it to develop the grammar. Simple matching exercise there. As you saw with, I think it was, someone had the TION being made into a noun from verbs, invade, invasion. You can also see that these final stable syllables prefer, preferential, all of a sudden TIAL means something is an adjective. And you can go as far as you want with some of these, depending upon your students. So spelling, sounds and syllables treats the final stable syllable in level 5 as irregular for spelling. Many level 5 students can do well with some select spelling patterns, especially when meaning is attached. So, shun or shun, C-I-A-N or T-I-A-N. This is one pattern that you might be able to teach your students. Someone who does music is a musician. Someone who deals with optics is an optician. Someone who works with logic is a logician. Someone who does pediatrics, which would be pretty advanced for spelling, is a pediatrician. But C-I-A-N, just like all the other final stable syllables, does have meaning, and you can use that meaning to help you with spelling. So if you look at T-I-O-S versus C-I-O-U-S, and T-I-A-L versus C-I-A-L, there are some other guides to spelling. As I said before, with the T-I-A-L, sometimes that will say chol. And if it says chol, it's going to be T-I-A-L, not C-I-A-L. You can also see, if you look, on page 78, face, which ends in a C, becomes facial. You keep the C. Race, which ends with a C-E, becomes racial. So you keep the C. T-I-O-S, C-I-O-S is the same thing. Someone who has malice is malicious. You keep the C. Someone who, something with a lot of space is spacious. You keep the C. So these are ways, very carefully with students, you can begin to help them with some of these spelling words. So going on, is that clear? Okay, I think I'm over time, but Meredith's not waving at me.
Well, we were told we could get to 1 and ask.
Oh, so you're letting me have
You have an hour.
time.
You can finish in an
Okay,
hour.
so you've done all that brutal exercise through the final stable syllables. And then you have a couple irregular spellings to deal with. You have the consonantal A saying and then you have E-A-R saying and E-A-R saying R. There are many creative ways that you can approach this. I just made this up for teaching some vocabulary, and again, you can use this for teaching spelling, just depending upon your needs of your students, and they can just do a matching based on Earth, the planet Earth, and deal with it that way. Sometimes if students have a visual, it makes it a lot easier for them to group all of these words together, and that these are all the E-A-R words. And I believe that wraps up the level 5.
Do you want to handle questions and
Yes,
answers?
I would like that. Do we need a break?
Yeah, we'll handle break on that.
This will be available online. Since I see people taking pictures of it, this will be available as a handout.
Mike said, where'd you get that? You pointed at me as if it was a you're saying you did something that could see. Yeah, and then you want to present. I mean, what the?
Let's see, can I have my PS supplement? I know. Oh, you've got it, great, thank you.
This is mine.
Yeah, it's not quite 12. We thought we'd have to end now. I looked at 1 was kind of a confusing possible.
I'm gonna do that all the time. Worked out well.
Do you want me to like take a 10-minute break, come back? We're gonna have one quick PowerPoint from Patty and then address the questions or any other questions. What do you think?
If anyone has to leave, I have CEUs here, so don't leave without them.
Do you want me to pass them out?
Sure. I don't think
Do you, Ellen? Do you have these as 6 for the presenters?
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
We get 6. If you can.
Really?
Yes.
It's called a contract, because you're prep, but it's called a contract.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you say
Just change it to 6.
Just use the word presenter.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
All right, I'll do that after I do this. Yeah, we start with
Any other questions?
Oh, we are crowded in here.
Any other questions?
I just finished up level 4 with one of my students.
Okay, folks, 5 minutes after 12, we have a quick presentation.
I mean, the same thing. There you go, Patty. This is there. We're not gonna, just shut this off for a second about that pride. And I think there's some family things going on. I did get special things for rent.
Do you want this to be recorded? This is a great time.
How do I